My name is Josh Benson. I am essentially leading the success efforts over here at Madgicx, and I consult with folks at all different levels of scale, everywhere from beginning startups all the way to enterprise folks who are looking to use Madgicx to get to their next level. And so that's essentially what I do. I help people get to their next level. Just a little bit about myself. I live in Denver, Colorado. I have a family. Here's a picture of my son, Michael. And then my daughter is right here. My daughter, Katia. Oh, nice. I have a little ring here. I can put a little halo on her. That's fun. Yes, so I'm excited to get to show you the latest version of Madgicx. We're always adding new things to our platform, and that's why we conduct regular webinars so that folks like yourself can see what Madgicx has to offer. So I'm going to go ahead and activate my screen share. If you have any questions along the way as we go on this safari tour of Madgicx, please do mention your questions in the chat. Periodically, I will pause throughout the webinar to address those questions. But otherwise, I'll be continuing the tour. So I'm going to introduce you to Madgicx. So here at Madgicx, we currently offer 6 different solutions to help move the needle of your business. What we're going to be focusing on today is Madgicx.com. This is our advertising solution that serves up insights on your advertising efforts and then makes it easy to execute on those insights. Now, I like to think of this as kind of like the do-it-yourself solution. Now, we also have some other solutions available. And we also have what we call our professional services. So if you need some assistance with running your ad accounts, whether you're a brand or an agency, we have do it with me and do it for me services available. And by the way, we actually started as an agency before we started offering a platform. Madgicx started off by building solutions, and over time those solutions became powerful enough to where we thought it would be a good idea to offer it to other folks like yourself to be able to leverage as well. In addition, we also have Sparkle. So if creative production is a bottleneck for you, we have a solution to provide unlimited creatives to folks who are in need of that service. We can do graphics, images, videos, animations, all kinds of different things. For those who need a tracking solution in place, we have a tracking solution. What's great about that is it fixes your Facebook numbers. So if you have other systems that also use Facebook, those systems are also positively impacted by our tracking solution, which not every tracking solution does it the way that we do. So definitely an advantage. And then our newest solution that we offer is our AI copywriter. So if you're tired of writing your own copy, we have this available. Okay. I see another question looking for clarification for the app that you added on your Spotify or your Shopify. Yes, we do have an integration with Shopify. If you found us on the Shopify app store, yes, this is Madgicx, the app that we're going to be discussing today. So inside of Madgicx.com, we essentially have 4 core offerings. These 4 core offerings help to move the needle of your business. We're going to cover each of these on our webinar today. First is the essentials. This functions as the pilot seat in your airplane. If your business is an airplane, this is your pilot seat where you can see your dashboards and your instruments and you can get things done. Next is your targeting tools. These help you to analyze your targeting efforts and put your ads in front of the right people. Next is the creative suite. These are tools to help you better understand how your creative and copy efforts are going with your business. And then our 4th core offering is automation. These are tools to essentially take your best practices for managing your ads and then turn them into rules that enforce those best practices for you so you don't have to think about them anymore. You can focus on other things more worthy of your time and attention. Okay, so we're going to go right down the line. We'll start with the essentials, and that leads us to our ARR dashboard. So inside of our ARR dashboard, we can see our sales funnel visualized. Now, I understand when I do these webinars, folks are at all different levels of expertise. So I'm going to explain a fundamental concept here. So for those of you who are pros in the audience, bear with me. But this is very important to understand. So In your advertising efforts, there are 4 fundamentals that you want to get right if you want to be successful in your advertising efforts on social media. Number 1, you need to have a compelling offer. Number 2, you need to serve up that offer with compelling creatives. Number 3, you need to be putting those compelling creatives in front of the right people. And then number 4, you need to give those people a smooth and pleasant buying experience so that they can quickly move from cold to sold. What we're seeing in the ARR dashboard is a visualization of that customer journey from cold to sold according to our ad performance, hence the ARR dashboard. ARR stands for acquisition, retargeting, and retention. When you create your Madgicx account, one of the first things our system does is it analyzes your ads and then automatically assigns them into your sales funnel based on their structure. The result is that you can see the numbers across your customer cold to sold journey. My prospecting ads, those are ads that go to folks that are cold. They've never heard of me before. Re-engagement ads go to folks who need some persuasion on why they should trust my business, right? Retargeting ads, these help to get folks pushed over the line. They're waffling. They haven't decided to move forward. Retargeting ads help them get over the line. And then retention ads go out to folks who've purchased from us before because we want them to buy again, or we want them to tell their friends about us and refer us. So this cold to sold journey is essential to understand in your marketing efforts because different buyers are coming from different places in their own personal journeys, right? So the ARR dashboard helps us to visualize our performance. Now, you'll notice some components here. I need to explain these because they're going to come up several times throughout our experience inside of Madgicx. First up, you'll notice there's a filter. The filter lets us slice and dice the data based on what we want to see. So, for example, if I only wanted to see my ad performance against, say, only my active campaigns, or maybe I want to go back and look at just my top of funnel ads, and I use my naming convention to slice that, I could do that. So it's up to you as to how you filter your data, and that'll reflect in the numbers below. You'll also notice that we can set a look back window. So currently we're looking at the last 90 days of performance, but we can do a variety of different look back windows, or we can do historic data. So say if I want to do the month of May, I can do that. So we can visualize the data as we wish to see it. And so that covers the ARR dashboard. Well, the components outside the ARR dashboard, I should clarify. Now, you'll also notice I have the ability to export this data as a PDF, and I can also schedule this for delivery to the folks of my choice. So going out daily, weekly, monthly, email whoever I want that to go to. And then if you are an agency and you'd like if you'd like to keep Madgicx your secret weapon, we have the capacity to do that. You can embed your own logo, and that will replace the Madgicx logo branding across the experience. So folks won't see us; they'll just see your agency logos. But bottom line, whether a person is internal to your operation or external, they can get the data that they need when they need it, delivered at the cadence that you want. Okay, now you'll also notice that the reports inside of Madgicx are configurable. So I can drill down into any particular metric, and I can bring in any of my Facebook metrics, which I can easily keyword search these, by the way, very easy to do that. And you'll also notice that I have the ability to add a data source. So sometimes you may want to see your data from an off-platform perspective. So currently we support Google Analytics, and we also support Hyros. So anytime you see this dropdown, which you're going to see in reports and you're going to see in the automation section, anytime you see that dropdown, those data sources can be used instead of Facebook data if you prefer. Okay, so that introduces the ARR dashboard where I can visualize my sales funnel performance. Okay, let's move on. We also have a Google dashboard. I'm not going to spend any time there, but just know that we do have a Google dashboard available that has a similar experience. We'll move on to the Ads Manager 2.0. Inside of Ads Manager 2.0, I have a replacement for the Facebook Ads dashboard experience. So essentially, I can come in and I can see my different ads and I can drill down into those ads and I can get things done right from here. So for example, if I wanted to manage an asset, I can pause, I can start, change budget, bidding, spend limits. I can delete, change the names, all kinds of different things. It can all be done right from here. And by the way, anything that you see mentioned in this dropdown can also be found in our automation section. So if you find yourself manually doing these things in the dropdowns, whether it's here or in your Facebook Ads Manager, that's an indication that you could be using automation instead. Okay, so bottom line, I can see my different assets. I can get a visualization of their performance over time. I can customize the dashboard so I see the columns and data visualized that I want to see. And I can even see if an automation is currently managing the ads. And I can just shortcut right to those if I need to. There's also one component here that is on this dashboard. It was not on the other dashboard, what we call our smart filters. And you'll sometimes see this one pop up in some of the other places. So inside of our smart filter, we can apply a couple more filtering options. These are not always necessarily available, but on some of our dashboards, they are. Now, one thing that we do need to address early on in this conversation, anytime you pair up demographic data with bottom of funnel data, you may have noticed that Facebook took away those metrics inside the Facebook Ads Manager. You know, they've been having some legal challenges at the international scale on that. So they just kind of took those things away. So what that means is anytime you're pairing up demographic data with bottom of funnel data, you may notice data missing. So for example, you can actually see this when I hit this drop down, and you'll notice that ROAS is not displayed, and that's because Facebook no longer serves up that data. So don't mind that. However, for those of you who are using a tracking solution that feeds the results back into your Facebook numbers, like our Madgicx Cloud Tracking does, we actually have a loophole on that. I'll tell you more about that later when we get into the geographic report section. But let's keep going. So we've talked about Ads Manager 2.0 and managing our ads. And this raises the question of, when I make changes to my ads, it sure would be nice to know what the impact of those changes were. And this is a very difficult thing to measure, right? You know, it's kind of like saying, you know, if I wear my mask today when I go to the grocery store, what impact does that have on me reducing my chances of catching COVID or something like that? You know, it's a really hard thing to measure. The storyline helps us to get clues on how to answer those difficult to answer questions of, when I make changes to my ads, what's the impact of those changes? So here I've visualized one particular ad set, and this serves up in the storyline, it serves up a 7-day breadcrumb report. So I've got this bar going across the top, and anytime a change has been made to an ad, whether it was done by Madgicx automation or by a person, those changes are captured on this timeline. So you can easily visualize those changes, and then you can see the performance across multiple days. You can also go back and revisit previous weeks so you can see what the performance has looked like in the past. Okay, so that covers the storyline. We'll move on to the ad care. So ad care is a tool to help us set the tone for the social proof that we get on our ads. You know, social proof is one of those things that's very important for long-term performance, right? One of the beauties of having an ad account that's had a lot of history is you'll get a lot of likes and comments and things like that. And being able to set the tone on that can be very helpful. Ad care sets an automatic comment that goes up on every ad that you create. So that way, folks are able to get the links and the information that they need to know about your operation or your products. Okay, so that covers the essentials. I will pause here just for a question. I see that someone direct messaged me here asking, so what's the difference between Madgicx Cloud Tracking and Hyros? So I'm happy to cover that. Let me take a sip. So the key difference between the two that you need to know, Madgicx Cloud Tracking and Hyros have different ways of how they track. So they don't necessarily always agree on what the numbers should be, just so you're aware. Hyros numbers do not report at the individual ad level. So that is one limitation of their platform that you need to be aware of. What this means is if you need to pull reports at the ad level, or if you need to run automations at the ad level, you can't do it with Hyros data, just so you're aware. Madgicx Cloud Tracking does not use a separate framework from Facebook. Instead, what we do is we have a tracking solution that watches the customer journey from cold to sold, and then it takes all the data that Facebook missed, and whatever it catches, it feeds it back into Facebook as an offline conversion. So that way the pixel is reinforced with that conversion data. And that's why it impacts your Facebook numbers across the board. So that would be the major differences between the two platforms. But if you have additional questions, we can certainly set up a separate conversation on that. Okay, let's move on to the targeting. So we've got tons of tools inside of the targeting section. We'll start at the very top. Our audience launcher tool is one of the ways that we can go about launching new audiences with new ads. Okay, so when I first come into this screen, I'll tell you, it may feel a little overwhelming at first, right? There's all these different little boxes. And so what does all of this mean? Well, what this is this is essentially a vending machine for audiences. I can come in, I can find all kinds of different audience selections, and then I can make a few choices. And, I don't know about you, but when I look at a vending machine, after I've looked at it for a few seconds, I quickly realize, okay, out of the 50 choices I have here, probably 10 of them are applicable to me. And you'll probably feel that too when you go into the audience launcher. Now, you can drill down based on keywords. So for example, maybe I want to build an audience, say a lookalike. I can search for those that are specifically lookalikes. Or maybe I want to pull up an audience that's based on video. I can do that. So you can keyword search these, and that'll trim down the list for you. I should also point out that we do support not only launching ads for Facebook, but also for Google. And if you want to launch Google ads, that's available. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select a couple of audiences here. I'll grab one more standard audience, and then I'll also grab a lookalike. Let's see. Let's do this one right here. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to show you the audience launching experience. We actually have two different ways of how we can launch audiences. This is the first one. Now, we're essentially establishing our campaign structure here. We can either have Madgicx take care of that. We can select campaigns we already have, or we can make our own structure at the bottom. We'll go ahead and move forward with the Madgicx structure. Okay. So now that I've designated my structure, now I'm going to go about selecting the ads that I want to use. So I have some options here. You'll see these listed on the bar below. And what's great is as I'm going through my different options, I can have the ads or the assets ranked by performance, and I can choose what performance metrics that I want to use. Right now I'm ranking by ROAS, but if I wanted to rank by leads or app installs or cost per purchase, all of those different metrics are going to be available. And so I can apply those and get a new ranking based off of that. The best performers are going to surface to the top and to the left. So I can select my existing ads, or I can separate the creative from the ad copy, and I can mix and match. That's what creative clusters is. So inside of creative clusters, I'm seeing my best ad copy pushed to the left and my best ad copy pushed to the top. Now, this is one of our AI-powered tools. And something that you need to understand when you're working with AI-powered tools is that you have to give them a sanity check, because they surface hidden gems, but they also surface dirt. And you got to sort of dig through the dirt to get to the gems, right? So what that means in this context is sometimes the ad copy may not be a good pair to the creative. So keep that in mind. And so there we go. So we selected a few copies and creatives. We can also use our Instagram posts and Facebook posts. So if you're doing that organic posting, you can leverage those, and this keeps the social proof attached on the ads. And then we also can create new ads as well. And then last but not least, over on the purple bar on the right, we can always just drop in our ad IDs or our post IDs. So we have lots of different ways of how we can launch ads. We'll move forward. So now that we've designated the ads that we want to use, we can now customize the audiences we've created. Now, when we customize these audiences, we can determine things like what locations we're going to target at the country level, the region level, the city level, or even custom locations like zip codes. So you can designate the targeting. Now, you'll also notice that you can set how far back the data goes. And since this is a lookalike audience, the percentage. Now, a lot of folks like to spin up multiple variants of the same audience, and you can do that right from here. So maybe spin up a few different copies. Maybe for this particular copy, we're going to do 0 to 3%. And then maybe on this copy, maybe we'll do something like 5 to 10. So you can test and experiment with different audience sizes right from here. Now, depending on what kind of audience you selected at the beginning impacts what options are available down here. So you may see these screens change depending on your selections. Okay, so once that's done and we hit save changes on the top right, the last screen just simply asks you when you want the ads to go live and if you want to change the naming convention. So super straightforward. We're going to go ahead and move on to Audience Studio. This is the other way of how we can launch new ads inside of Madgicx, or launch new audiences. So built into the Audience Studio is an audience report. Okay, so what this means is I can quickly come in and see the performance of my best audiences ranked by whichever metric that I care about. So I can adjust that as I need to. So the idea is that I can take an audience, I can drop it in. Now, sometimes Facebook doesn't know the audience size. So sometimes it's impossible to determine the reach because of that. Otherwise, you'll see an estimation of how many of how many people are in the audience. And essentially what we can do is we can layer the audience, and we can layer it with Facebook targeting data. So maybe I want to bring in people who've paid Facebook in the last 90 days. And maybe I also want to bring in people who, let's see, are interested in day spas. And so I can apply up to 2 layers. We call them intersections, but it's the same idea. And then I'll have an estimation of how large my new audience is going to be. This one is very small, so we'd probably want to go with something a little bigger than this. But I trust you get the idea. You can mix and match audiences. You can remix them and create a new audience and then launch new ads to go towards those folks. When I hit that blue launch button on the top right, it's going to take me through the same experience we went through with Audience Launcher. So I'm going to go ahead and move on. But that covers the Audience Studio. We'll now move on to bid testing. Bid testing is a tool that helps me to set up a test environment to test my bids. Many folks have been able to leverage this tool to beat the Facebook algorithm on their bidding performance. The system's going to serve up some recommendations on which of your ad sets are most likely to do well in a bid test. We can designate what kind of bidding we want to do. Typically, we recommend doing cost cap if you're not sure. And then you can decide how many duplicates are going to get spun up. So the idea is we launch some duplicates, we run them at different bid levels, we let the experiment run for however many days, and then whichever ones are performing well, we keep, and the ones that are not performing well, those get automatically paused, so we don't spend any more money on that experiment. So it makes it really easy to set up the test environment for your bid testing and identify what's the optimal bid for this particular ad set. Let's move on. Next, we're stepping into our hidden insights, which we have quite a few components here. So let's go straight from the top. Here, we're stepping into our targeting insights. So the idea of targeting insights is we want to get data about our targeting that is really difficult to find inside of Facebook itself, okay? Facebook is a little bit secretive about how some of their targeting and auction data works. So this helps to demystify it a little bit and give you some hard data to work with. So here we can see our sales funnel performance across our different kinds of ads, prospecting, re-engagement, retargeting, and retention, and our different audiences that we've created inside of there. When I scroll down, I actually can see my different landing pages and what their performance is, ranked across whichever performance metric I care about. So I can see those, and even which ads are using those landing pages. I can see a breakdown on a few other different metrics, like the impact of expansion on my different ads, expansion across interest and lookalikes. I can see which audience sizes tend to be my best performers. Looks like I've actually done some really good work on my hyper-targeting there. We can see comparison and contrast between folks who are on regular internet versus folks who are Wi-Fi only, lookalikes and recency data. And then we have an AI audience system. If you're using that system, that will create a table where you can compare and contrast the performance across different categories of your clients, which the system automatically creates based on the categorizations of the audiences you launch in Madgicx. These come from our audience launcher tool. So you may have noticed that they said things like, gold infrequent website visitors or something like that. That's where this viewpoint comes from. And then we have a full funnel report. So this report has a second page to it where we can get a breakdown across our different kinds of audience types. Again, many of these audiences correlate with the audiences inside of Audience Launcher. So if you're using Audience Launcher, you're going to see quite a bit of data here. Okay, so that covers the targeting insights. We'll move on to the geographic and demographic insights. So inside of my geographic and demographic insights, I can see my performance across different countries. Now, you may be looking at this and maybe you're thinking to yourself, Josh, you've only got data inside of the United States mostly here. Is this really all that useful? And the answer to that is, yeah, actually it is. So I'll show you. You can actually zoom in on this map and get a blow up of what's happening across the different countries. So whether it's the United States or Europe or other places, this works on all countries. So we can see where our performance is aligning, and which can feed into future audiences that we'll create. All the metrics are adjustable. And again, we can see that demographic data. Now, I had mentioned a little bit of a loophole earlier. So there's this really cool thing that we have available because of Madgicx Cloud Tracking. So if you're using that solution, you're going to have the ability to bring in offline purchase data. So see, Facebook doesn't show bottom of funnel data paired up with demographic data, but the one place where they still do is in offline purchase data. So if you're feeding those conversions in from the tracking solution into the offline conversions channel the way that we do, you're going to actually be able to visualize on the map where your purchases are coming from. Super helpful for your targeting efforts. Okay, let's move on. We also have our auction insights. So this report helps to clear up some of the controversies that exist in the world of advertising, like what's better, CBO or ABO, in learning or out of learning. You're going to actually be able to see your performance inside the auctions insights report and clear up that controversy for your ad account. So here I can see, for example, out of learning is definitely doing better for me than in learning. I can also see different ad deliveries. Now, I only have conversion campaigns, but if you have other kinds of campaigns, those are going to be visualized here. We also have our automatic bidding versus manual bidding. Different ad types are going to be visualized. Our performance across different placements. Here, I'll bring in a performance metric. We can visualize here. There we go. My engagement ranking, which tells me how Facebook's classification system is aligning with my performance metrics, conversions, quality ranking, and then a frequency breakdown. And so that covers the auction insights. Okay, we'll move on to the Creative Suite. Inside the Creative Suite, we have already covered Ad Launcher because that's part of the audience launching experience. So we'll move on to Creative Insights. So inside of Creative Insights, I can see my different creatives compared and contrasted across the top. Images, video of different lengths, carousels, and DPAs. So the idea is I can compare and contrast and see where my efforts are resonating. And then I have a color graph that visualizes for me the performance. Right now I'm looking at it based on cost per click, but if I want to look at something different, like say ROAS, I can do that. And then the graph will shift and adjust accordingly. And then I can drill down into creatives and see how well they're performing. The closer to the green they're doing, the better. That represents performance. The further they're into the red, visualizes overspend. Further down, I can see a historic trend of my creative performance. So I can actually see 4 weeks back of which of my creatives are performing. You may have noticed that these are numbered. So you can actually go into this creative report. This is creative number 3. So if I wanted to visualize creative number 3, boom, there it is, just like that. And then I can hover over these and see how each creative is doing. Last but not least is the AI feature tags. So you may recall what I told you earlier. Anytime you're using any kind of artificial intelligence tool, they surface both hidden gems and dirt. So you want to always take a look here. So when I see no tags found, that's dirt to me. When I see text, that's dirt to me. But I'll tell you a time when I found a hidden gem. There was actually a lady I was working with not too long ago who was trying to get some inspiration on her next round of creatives. So we were going through her report and we noticed that there was a tag for food. And we thought that was interesting. You know, the green bar on food was a lot higher than the amount spent. So the revenue was very good on those. So we actually went into the smart filter and then used the AI feature tag to drill down to just the ads with food. And no joke, her top 10 best ads were marked with the food tag, and they had food somewhere visualized. And the funny thing is, she wasn't selling anything food related. It was all cosmetics and beauty products. So for her next batch of creatives, she actually launched a bunch of ads that had food featured somewhere in the creative, in the imagery. And so that was something that she used to get inspiration for her next round of creatives. So lots of cool things you can do with the creative insights. The ad copy insights report is going to look very similar. We have the same color graph, which we can compare and contrast. And we can see the performance of our different links of ad copy. Currently, it looks like medium is our strongest performer. Performance with and without emojis and links. And then also top phrases. So we can actually see what are the phrases that consistently show up in our converting ad copy. And so that covers the creative suite. We'll move on to automation. So inside of Madgicx, we have 3 different ways of how we can automate your ads. Now, here's the thing about automation. Automation, a lot of folks find to be a little scary at first, right? Automation is scary because computers do what we tell them to, but sometimes what we told them to do is not actually what we intended them to do. And that's a scary thing, right? We've all heard stories of people who tried to do something with automation and then they broke something. So we want to avoid that. And I'm happy to say that we have many folks using Madgicx who've been able to reach higher, more optimal levels of performance using automation. So let's step into this. Let's get familiar with it. When we get more familiar with things, that's how we eliminate fear, right? So we have 3 different ways of how we can create automations inside of Madgicx. Now, if you're the type who's not used automation before, or it's something that's a little scary, you might want to start with automation tactics. So the idea is it's kind of like going into a restaurant, okay? You've got a menu to choose from. So I can find an automation that resonates for me. Like maybe I want to do stop loss at the ad level. And maybe I want to base that off of outbound clicks. So I could do something like this. Now the system actually populates the metrics for me. And it's saying, hey, if I've spent almost $7 and I haven't gotten a single outbound click, then maybe it's time to pause the ad for today. It's going to actually turn it back on the next day. So now I can choose to customize this. Maybe I want to give it a little bit more slack. Maybe I'll put it at $8, or maybe I'll do some different metrics. But the idea is that I can quickly put an automation in place. The recipe integrity is maintained, so I can't break it. And I can save this automation and rest assured that my ads are going to be managed according to a best practice that's not going to break things. Now, if you're more of a hardcore user, then you may want to step into custom automation. The great thing about custom automation is that it's kind of like cooking food at home. When you cook in your own kitchen, nobody's there to tell you what to do. You can make whatever you want. And if you're a good cook, you can make stuff that's better than what's in a restaurant. But the thing is, if you burn it, it's on you, because there's no guardrails when it comes to custom automation. You build what you want, and it's up to you as to whether it's any good. So when we build custom automation, we have all kinds of different options available. I told you before that dropdown has all the options, just like so. And when we put an automation in place, we can use any Facebook data, or we can use those data sources, Google Analytics through Madgicx Metrics, or data through Hyros. And so we can create a best practice based off of what makes sense for us. And here I've just carved out a very simple automation. If my ROAS is less than 2, then pause the ad set. Now I've created some more complex automations than this, so I'll actually give you a sneak peek on this, because there's all kinds of cool things you can do with custom automation. So for example, here is an automation that I created that automates creative testing. Maybe you have run into this before, where you try to do a creative test, but Facebook doesn't spend the same across the ads, right? And so some of the ads get a lot of spend and some of them don't get very much, or some of them don't get any spend at all. So what this automation does is it says, hey, let's make sure all the ads get impressions, And when they get and for our testing purposes, when the test tube is full, we're going to pause the ad. Once all the test tubes are full, it's going to do a comparison. And if it passes our victory conditions, then it's going to put a winner tag on my winning ads. And then from there, I can either move them to a scaling campaign, or maybe I'll just get rid of the losers and move forward with the winners. And so that's a creative testing automation that automates my creative testing, so I don't have to think about it. Okay, so that covers custom automation. Our third automation option is the autonomous budget optimizer. So this is a tool that will take care of all of your budget scaling and management. The idea is that we program this kind of like the autopilot on an airplane. We set up our parameters and then we let the plane fly, okay? So when we customize this, there are 3 steps to getting this done. The first is we're telling the system which ads we want this to impact. Right now it's set to do all of them. Typically for this tool, I would recommend don't have it run on ads that are in a testing phase. This is more meant for ads that are in a scaling phase, okay? So leave your testing ads out of the autonomous budget optimizer. Now, when we get into our budget scaling, so essentially the system is going to set up a sort of budget ladder, okay? So the idea is you have this ladder and the rungs at the bottom get the least amount of spend, the lowest performers get the lowest spend, and the strongest performers get the highest spend, okay? So the autonomous budget optimizer lets me define each of the rungs on the ladder. So if your performance is here, you get this much budget. If your performance is there, you get more budget. Pretty straightforward. And you can define this across all the funnels, or excuse me, all the stages of your sales funnel. Because we're going to do different amounts of spend on prospecting compared to retention, right? Just to give an example. Now, there's a lot of rungs on this ladder, so I'm going to simplify this a little. There we go. This is a little bit more easy to digest. So the idea is I have a budget ladder at the bottom of the ladder, which is on the top here. I know that's weird, but just bear with me. But my lowest performers get the minimum budget, okay? And then as we go up the ladder, the amount goes higher and higher until we hit the maximum, which as you can see is a lot more budget. Now, you may not want to have such big jumps between your rungs. So maybe we want to, if you want to override the defaults here, you can do that. You have full control at the end of the day. So it's up to you to define what you want this budget ladder to look like. But if you're not sure, then just let the defaults be, because the system actually assigns those defaults based on an analysis of your ad account. There we go. And so that's how we can quickly institute a budget ladder. And that can be updated anywhere from once a day to every so often. I typically recommend start with once every 3 days. And once you get comfortable with the tool, if you want to have it run more frequently, you can always adjust it. So the budget ladder enables us to tell the system how much money to spend on each of our ads. The smart targeting insights enables us to inform the system of where we should be spending that money. So it can adjust the targeting of the ads. We can do this by prioritizing different metrics and timeframes. And these adjustments can be applied at a similar cadence. So once every 3 days or daily, you get to decide. Okay, so that covers the ABO tool. Now, let's wrap up here. Now, when you reach the end of this webinar, one of a couple of different things has happened by this point. Possibility number one, you watch this and you're like, okay, this is awesome. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to do this. If that's you, you can go ahead and hit that try for free button and get your free trial going. We give you a 7-day trial where you can put in place your proof of concept, make sure Madgicx is going to do all the things you need it to, talk to someone in our sales team. And then once you move forward, then you'll be able to use the entire platform. Now, if you came away from this webinar feeling like, you know what, I'm really overwhelmed, I don't know where to start, I'm stumped, then I would encourage you reach out to our team for a demo from our sales team, and also consider our professional services. We have do it for me and do it with me services available. That's exactly for you, okay? We want you to be successful. And so we have those services available to take care of that. Maybe you came away from this feeling like, you know what, I want to do this, but I'm not ready yet. The timing is not right. If that's you, that's okay. What we would want you to do is go ahead and reach out to us and schedule something that fits with your schedule. And when the time is right, we'll meet with you and we'll provide that guided experience so that you can start seeing value from Madgicx right away. We also have a variety of sources that are available so you can learn on your own time. We have a wiki page, which contains our academy over at wiki.madgicx.com. And we have all kinds of help articles available. If you're more of a do-it-yourself kind of person, then we've got articles available where you can dive right into what's interesting to you and learn more about that particular part of our platform. Okay, so this covers the Safari tour of Madgicx. I hope you've enjoyed this webinar. I have greatly appreciated your time and attention. If you have any questions, please do reach out. This is Josh Benson signing off. Thank you again. Best wishes for your advertising success on Facebook.